Well, they've gone and done it again. The tech giants out there inventing things that will inevitably, in the end, destroy the U.S. economy and take down the U.S. government. Fortunately, we have powerful representatives in Washington who are working to prevent this outcome, and I think they will be successful. Now, I don't know if you were like me and listening to the Facebook Libra, which is the Facebook cryptocleptacy, a currency. If you were listening to the hearings on that topic, but I did. I listened to it all day today, and what I heard was absolutely astounding. Facebook intends to replace the US dollar with their scam currency, which they can print at will and inflate away just as people become dependent upon it. And they'll throw away the dollar, and they'll throw away the euro, and all of the currencies that we so know and love, the stable currencies of the world, will be replaced by Facebook ZUCKBUCks. Think about that for a moment. You will be handing over your ability to spend, your ability to participate in the global economy to Facebook, the company best known for supporting Nazis and racists, and only recently doing anything to prevent them from posting their hateful rhetoric on this platform of fascism. Is that something you want to participate in? Is that what you think the future should be? Well, I'll tell you what, some of these legislators in Washington were wise to the ways of Facebook and had some really key points to make to the Facebook shills. I want to play one clip and give you some commentary as we play a brilliant politician from California, Mr. Sherman, as he really lays out the situation and sticks it to the Facebook scammers. Let's take a listen and let's see what he had to say. Now forgive me, it's live, so maybe a little bit less
Madam Chair, we
I'd
need
like.
to
Here
get
we go.
Mark Zuckerberg here. This is the biggest thing, or it tries to be the biggest thing, this committee will deal with this decade. And while we have one of his employees here, this is Zuckerberg's program. Now we're told by some that innovation is always good. The most innovative thing that happened this century is when Osama bin Laden came up with the innovative idea of flying 2 airplanes into towers.
Okay, stop. We need to stop right there and talk about this. What he's saying, and correctly so, is that the most innovative thing, or we've been told, the most innovative thing in the past decade was 9/11. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. What could be more innovative than terrorists flying things into a building? Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what makes a great parallel to that situation, and that is the ZUCKBUCK, okay? It's probably maybe 15 or 20 times worse than anything that a terrorist could do, because the largest terrorist organization in the world, Facebook, is attempting to use their power to take down the U.S. economy. Let's see what else he has to say to clarify. Basically, this is the point he'll make, but let's see if he can express it more eloquently than I'm able to.
The most consequential innovation, although this may do more to endanger America than even that. People call this the Libra. It's not the Libra. Nobody, if it finally happens, nobody's going to call it Libra. They're going to call it a ZUCKBUCK. This is
a ZUCKBUCK. And you can see on his face that he's taking this very seriously. It's not like we're seeing a politician here. We're seeing a man who's speaking from his heart, and he's telling everybody how he feels and what he knows to be true deep inside. And that's what I really appreciate about Mr. Sherman. We'll play a little bit more and see if we can get any other tidbits from his expose.
Zuckerberg's baby. Now, Mr. Marcus gave me two promises in our conversation yesterday, both of which he knows they won't comply with.
So in other words,
First, he promises
which isn't
that
surprising.
all the know your customer and anti-money laundering is going to be adhered to.
Yep.
But that applies only to the Calibra wallet, and he hopes to have hundreds of other wallets created by others.
So these Facebook scammers are trying to print money just like the the Federal Reserve does today. They're trying to print their own money. Do you see how dangerous this is? This money they print that they want credit card companies to distribute? And they're not going to have any security. There's not going to be anything at all to keep criminals from accessing these destructive units of exchange. Wow, it's unfathomable. Can you imagine a world in which Facebook controls your spending? Huh. You know what? You didn't say enough racist things this week. You can't spend any Libras. Ha! Let's see what else he has to say.
Keep in mind, as to Bitcoin, 46% of the transactions, according to one academic study, are for drug dealers and other nefarious operations. Hamas advertises they want Bitcoin contributions. Bitcoin, however, has a problem. There's no off-ramp. There's no way
That's
to just
right.
go.
This is another very important aspect. Bitcoin cannot be spent. You cannot use it to purchase goods or services anywhere on the internet or anywhere in the world. But Libra, on the other hand, will be something which does have an off-ramp. So Bitcoin, there's an on-ramp, there's no off-ramp. So you're stuck in Bitcoin. Once you buy it, you're stuck. If you're a criminal buying Bitcoin, you gotta keep it. Now, if you have a Libra, no, that's free to exchange back and forth. Do what you want with the Libras as long as Facebook approves. And you know what Facebook will approve of? I'll tell you the first thing. Criminals. They'll approve of anybody selling any kind of opioid, any kind of illegal substance, any kind of human trafficking, any kind of murder for hire. That's what Facebook represents and loves. And that's what they'll allow their Libra coin, or actually encourage their Libra coin to be used for. I think he makes his point even better in just a moment. Let's take a listen.
Buy something with a Bitcoin. You can eventually with a ZUCKBUCK. And finally, the white paper put out by Facebook says,
Look at
the
this
Libra
clown.
protocol does not link accounts to real-world identity. A user is free to create multiple accounts by generating multiple key pairs. So this is a godsend to drug dealers and sanctions evaders and tax evaders.
There we go. That's all we needed to hear. This is a godsend to bad people. That's what Libra coin is. Now, it's used for social engineering, again, to encourage racism, to encourage any kind of nefarious activity. Malfeasance in general is supported and encouraged by Facebook through Libra, and it's a way for Facebook to take control of the currency and make themselves infinitely richer. And it's not actually just Facebook. It's Mark Zuckerberg and Mr. Marcus here. Those are the people who will become rich from Libra. You and I, they'll be taking that money right out of our pockets. U.S. government, they'll be taking it right out of the Treasury. Facebook can now levy taxes. Facebook becomes the new government. This is extremely dangerous. This is way worse than anything we could possibly imagine. Let's see if he makes any other good points. I think Mr. Sherman just does such a great job of summing up the risks and problems with this technology.
Zuckerberg has billions, but he doesn't have the authority to print more until he gets this. We went from the U.S. dollar. We went from the U.S. dollar being linked to gold, and we only printed a number of dollars equal to the gold we had to the dollar becoming valuable in and of itself, and now we can print. How many dollars we print has nothing to do with how much gold we have in store.
So the dollar, as it stands today, is valuable in and of itself. That means it has intrinsic value. It used to be linked to something like gold or whatever, but now just having dollars is enough. And we can print more dollars if we need them because we need more money or whatever the reason, and that's totally fine. That doesn't have any negative consequence because the dollar is in circulation. But the difference between the dollar and Libra is that Libra would be controlled by Guess who? Mark Zuckerberg. And what do you think he's going to do as soon as he has the ability to print money? He's going to print as much money as he wants. And what's he going to do with the money? He's going to buy cars. He's going to waste it. He'll fly around on jets. He'll make new jets. He'll probably invent rocket ships or electric cars. Who knows what he'll do? But it will be a waste of money. And he'll waste that money that he's printing out of thin air in his Libra land. Wow. It boggles the mind. It really hurts to even hear that somebody would have these kind of anti-American hateful ideas. And I suppose if someone's going to, it would be fascist Mark Zuckerberg and Mr. Marcus here, his ally.
Mr. Marcus promised me that they would never do that, but then he testifies here that the Libra
Once again,
Association will
he's
make all
lying,
the decisions and
what
Facebook
would you
won't be in
expect
control.
from a
So
Facebook
much for those
employee?
promises. America's power comes from the power of the dollar more, I think, than the power of our military.
And this is very key. The dollar is the source of U.S. power. And that's very true. That is actually very true. The U.S. military is only there to support the dollar. If it wasn't for the dollar, the U.S. military wouldn't even be able to function. Because who's going to give the troops dollars if there is no dollar? That's right, nobody, because there won't be one. Well, that pretty much sums that up.
The interest rates in the United States by at least $1,000 a family.
I don't know what
the
that
senior
means.
itch has allowed the Fed to transfer $100 billion in some years, often less, to the Treasury. Our sanctions in Iran, which I've worked on for over 20 years, are effective only because of the power of the dollar. And we are able to go after...
So who's gonna bring the sanctions against Iran when we're using Libras because Zuckerberg has decided to take over the economy of the world? Well, I'll tell you who. Zuckerberg. He's the one who has to decide whether or not Iran pays sanctions. So what does the U.S. government do if they want to enforce something? Will they come over to Mr. Zuckerberg and say, please, Mr. Zuckerberg, can you prevent these guys from having any more ZUCKBUCks? And Mr. Mark Zuckerberg may say, I don't know. I'm going to smoke some meats and think about it. Yeah. Or he might say, oh, yeah, I agree with you, you know. Yeah. So basically this makes Mark Zuckerberg royalty. It makes him the king of America and really the king of the world if he pulls this off. That's why these Congress people are concerned. And I think they should be. About not just Libra coin, but all cryptocurrencies, because they all have the same goal, which is to dethrone the dollar as the greatest currency in the world and prevent the United States from printing money as needed.
Human traffickers, drug dealers, and tax evaders because of the power of the dollar. We're told that they're going to solve two problems with this. They're not going to solve those problems. Cross-border transmission, let's do that in dollars. Or let's send Quitzels to Guatemala. You've got a multi-billion-dollar company, trillion-dollar company. Help people make those transmissions at low fees. But what, use dollars or use the local?
So you got to use dollars. It makes sense. Why would you send something other than dollars in the current world? But if you're Mark Zuckerberg, you say, no. I don't want to use dollars because I can't print them. That's all it comes down to. It's really, really very simple. You know, I think we're done here with this video. I don't know if anybody's actually in the chat here. I'll take a look. I gotta go over to the live dashboard. Oh yeah, we got one watching. That's probably a bot. Anyway. All right, guys.